All right, so we have this probability distribution, and the first thing that we need is A, because A is missing from our chart. Now recall, everything under P of X has to add up to 1. So if we look at it right now, everything that we have adds up to 0.8. And that means that A has to be 0.2 to add up to 1. So immediately we've got our A, it's 0.2. All right, second thing we need is the probability of 0. Well, that's right there in the chart. The probability of 0, if we look across from the x value of 0, it's 0.5. All right, the next thing it asks us to find is the probability that x is greater than 0. Okay, so the only two numbers that are greater than 0 in our chart are 1 and 4. So if we add up those two probabilities, 0.2 and 0.1, this is 0.3. And then we want the probability that x is greater than or equal to 0. Well, that's just going to include the 0 itself, so we'll take our 0.3 that we had and add it to the 0.5, and that's going to give us 0.8. And then the probability that x is less than or equal to -2, well, there are no values for x that are less than or equal to -2, so this probability is not possible, it is 0. Or the x value is not possible, so the probability is 0. Now we want our mean. Okay, so to get our mean, let's recall that first we have to multiply the columns x and px. So let's do that. -1 times 0.2 is going to give us -0.2. 0 times 0.5 will still be 0. 1 times 0.2 is 0.2. And 4 times 0.1 is 0.4. And then we need to add this column up, which gives us 0.4. So our mean, mu, is equal to 0.4. All right, next thing we need is the variance. Okay, so recall for the variance, we need x squared, the sum of the x squared px's minus the mean squared. And we've already got the mean, but we need to get the x squared px's. So the first thing we need to do is find x squared. Now, this means that we are going to square everything we've got in our x column. So -1 squared is 1, 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is still 1, and 4 squared is 16. Now we need to take the x squared column and multiply it times the p of x column. Now be careful about which columns you multiply. That's where mistakes usually occur. So let's take the one that's in the x squared column and multiply it times the 0.2. That's still 0.2. Oh, let me label this column. It's x squared px. P of x. All right. 0.5 times 0 is still 0. 0.2 times 1 is still 0.2. And 0.1 times 16 is going to be 1.6. And now let's add this column. So if we add this column, that's going to give us 2. All right, so let's use our formula and find our variance. So sigma squared it's equal to the sum of the x squared px, the sum of this column, which is 2, minus our mean mu squared. So that's going to be 2 minus 0.16 or 1.84 for our variance. Now, of course, if it had asked us to find the standard deviation, all we would need to do was take the square root of 1.84.